Hi, my name is Jack Hatton, and I will be presenting on behalf of Ben Farrell and I for our content report on the SABC.
That is where we start this hour. The Khoisan communities in the Northern Cape say they are still hopeful that their languages will become one of the official ones in the future.
There's been some progress, but they admit a lot still needs to be done. International Mother Language Day is being celebrated today.
Languages have survived the ages. Many are thousands of years old. Now marginalized, the Tung and Kwe communities at Platfontein outside Kimberley have seen rapid development of their languages. Just over a decade ago, it couldn't be written. Now there's a dictionary and some books on the way. And the clicks of the languages reverberate across the airways daily. They are paving the way for the language to become another official South African language, but there are several obstacles.
The language to be introduced at our local schools, it's a big challenge, that one. So we should have to look into that one, but we don't know where to raise that point so that people can hear what is the need of the Kwe and the San people.
Both Gung and Kwe communities are in the process of translating the Bible into their respective languages. The Gung community has already completed Genesis and look forward to seeing the rewards.
I'm
very happy that our language can now be written, but I'm even happier that we have started translating the Bible just like any other indigenous languages.
The Pan South African Language Board in the Northern Cape says progress is slowly.
We chose this story because it focuses on the SABC's efforts to equally represent Indigenous people of South Africa and their respective languages. This story also brings to light the recent emphasis to integrate multiple cultures of South Africa into the news. The story also touches on Dr. Palmer's PDF on the SABC and how they are attempting to become a, quote, Pan-African channel, end quote. So who are the Khoisan? The Khoisan are one of South Africa and the world's first ethnic groups. Their language is unique in the fact that it is characterized by clicking sounds, which are also considered implosive consonants. They have seen a recent rise in the desire to reclaim their ethnic land from the government, which is representative of the government recognizing different languages in South Africa. Unlike other Africans, the Khoisans are not considered to be black under the social fabric of South Africa, but the colored descriptor used to classify them has been deemed racist by Khoisan groups. Although there are no official numbers that speak on the issue, a very small number of South Africans consider themselves actually to be Khoisan. Khoisan people have vied for territorial independence from South Africa in recent years, but have been unsuccessful in their efforts. Visual style. The SABC uses a number of different visual elements in this story that emphasize the use of Khoisan language in the region and the recent developments towards the translation and writing of it. As you can see from the visual showing the radio host in the top right, SABC has a camera shot of the full radio set with the host and then follows that visual up with in the bottom right with the close-up on the host's mouth while she is speaking in a native Khoisan tongue. This reinforces the SABC's motivation to highlight the importance of the Khoisan languages and its presence in the region. Another visual style used in the news clip is a sheet of paper with translations between a Khoisan language and English on it in the bottom left. This not only draws attention to the ongoing activity of translating the language in the region, but also the fact that it can be translated to English furthers the ability of the language to be recognized on a bigger scale. The visual element in the story that depicts Dominga the translator in the top left speaking the Khoisan tongue adds an authentic side to the story in the sense that it demonstrates how much effort is being put into the translation of the language and also how important it is to the native people that their language is recognized. This exhibits SABC's sensitivity to the multilingual composition of South Africa. Textual narrative elements. Quote, just over a decade ago, it could not be written. Now there's a dictionary and some books on the way, end quote. This narrative style highlighting the fact that the language went from not even being able to be written to now having a dictionary shows the progress that these languages have had recently in becoming more relevant in South African culture and hopefully on their road to becoming a nationally recognized language. Quote, the clicks of the languages reverberate across the airwaves daily, end quote. This narrative style describing the clicks over the airwaves on the radio stations focuses on how active the language is in the region and also how the SABC is attempting to bring to light the value of the language due to it being on the radio. Quote, I am very happy that our language can now be written, but I'm even happier that we have started translating the Bible just like any other indigenous languages, end quote. This narrative style from the translator speaking in a Khoisan tongue and having the interview being conducted in a Khoisan language exhibits the SABC's commitment to fostering a multilingual community in South Africa. Quote, the Pan-South African Language Board in Northern Cape says progress is slow in recognizing Khoisan languages, but efforts are on the way to preserve them, end quote. This narrative style, defining the Pan-South African Language Board's view on the issue, demonstrates how far the languages have come to now being recognized on a national scale, and also how there are efforts now to make sure that none of the languages go extinct. In doing so, SABC is highlighting government involvement in preserving the languages, which shows their viewers the awareness being put towards the Khoisan. Quote, the 25,000-year-old new language, for example, remains critically endangered, with only 4 people alive who can speak it fluently. Nama, on the other end, is more developed and is being taught in 2 Northern Cape schools, end quote. This narrative style describing the fact that some of the languages are thousands of years old with only a finite number of speakers emphasizes SABC's highlighting of the sensitivity of such languages within the South African culture. This also brings to light how some of the more popular languages are now being taught in schools in the region, which indicates the integration of the languages into modern-day education and furthers the SABC's goal in underscoring the importance of maintaining such languages in practice. By grounding this piece within the context of International Mother Language Day, SABC has afforded internationally recognized credibility to this highly regional movement, which faces difficult roadblocks ahead. Political and cultural nature. There have been movements in recent years to support Khoisan cultural independence. The governing party of South Africa, the African National Congress, has laid out plans to redistribute land to indigenous peoples, but the Khoisan have been largely neglected, mostly due in part to them not being recognized by the government as the country's first people or as Black South Africans, but rather, quote, colored, end quote. This has presented challenges for the Khoisan movement, not to mention the fact that the people are also divided by tribes, with multiple self-proclaimed leaders who have differing opinions on the land issue. The UN Special Rapporteur on the Situation of Human Rights and Fundamental Freedoms of Indigenous People said, the most pressing concern of all the Khoisan communities is securing their land base and, where possible, reestablishing access to natural resources. End quote. Our argument is as follows. SABC hopes to highlight its sensitivity to lingual representation and diversity in South Africa by providing broadcasts in all languages, and this coverage is an extension of that sensitivity, and accomplishes this showing Khoisan language in the context of modern South African society. As for our discussion questions, do you agree with our argument? Why or why not? And the second one, according to this week's reading from Wineri, an explicit mission of SABC is to, quote, promote and help develop a national identity, while recognizing and supporting the various local languages and cultures." End quote. Do you think that this story effectively performs that role?